The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's 5 a.m. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. We begin with your 17 Crime Watch. New information about a man accused of killing a prominent member of the local LGBTQ community. Court documents say he used a homosexual slur minutes before the deadly shooting. However, prosecutors say that man won't be charged with a hate crime. 17's Rob Hagan explains why.
It's been more than a month, and you could still see caution tape where Daniel Landeros was shot and killed at Yokuts Park on his birthday, September 18th. He just turned 43. His friends say he was a fierce advocate who gave a voice to victims until he became the victim.
If this happened to anybody else in the community, there's no doubt in my mind that Daniel would be right here doing the exact same thing I am.
BPD detectives arrested 27-year-old Freddie Rivera of Delano for the murder. Court documents say Rivera shouted a homosexual slur at Landeros and his friend as they were taking a birthday stroll through Beach Park and Yokuts Park. After the gay slur, Landeros started to argue with Rivera. Minutes later, a shot rang out in the dark. Landeros was pronounced dead at the scene 11:18 p.m. Investigators say Rivera was at a park known for its high volume of homosexual activity in a black H3 Hummer wearing a black hat, black shirt, and black shorts. But the prosecutor on the case says he won't be charged with a hate crime. In a statement to 17 News, Deputy District Attorney Samantha Allen says, quote, "We filed the charges based on the evidence submitted. The defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt." Local defense attorney David Torres says reasonable doubt is the key. It's tough to prove hate crimes because free speech is protected.
This term that they're using, this hate term, was that the single primary motivation behind the actual homicide itself?
More details show Rivera has a violent past. Court documents say Rivera was arrested for grand theft after stealing from a Lowe's department store in August. Rivera's ex-girlfriend and mother of his child also filed a restraining order against him for violence. According to court documents, the Hummer Rivera was driving was found completely burned by an orchard near the Grapevine just 9 hours after the murder of Landeros. Torres says the prosecution is looking for these kinds of facts that will end in a conviction.
We could show that this person was a vicious person, that this first person just hated individuals, and he had a propensity to commit violence, and we've got prior evidence to show that, then they're going to show that. They're going to show their best chess piece, so to speak.
I'm Rob Hagan with 17 News.
Freddie Rivera is charged with murder and could face 15 years to life if convicted. A preliminary hearing is set for December.
Here's 17 Core Watch. The legal saga of a local baker who refused to bake a wedding cake for a same-sex couple in 2017 isn't over quite yet. The state civil rights department has formally asked an appeals court to overturn a Kearns judge's ruling in favor of Tastery's owner Kathleen Miller. Following a trial last year, a judge found Miller was within her First Amendment right, claiming state attorneys failed to prove Miller intentionally discriminated against the same-sex couple. In a news release, the Civil Rights Department says it is urging the Court of Appeal to reverse the, quote, erroneous decision. Here's what the department's acting director had to say in part. "In California, we refuse to stand down and let others roll back the clock on fundamental civil rights protection. Every couple deserves to celebrate and mark their special occasions without fear of discrimination. Refusal to provide equal access to goods and services is against the law." A new hearing on this matter has not been scheduled.
An off-duty Kern County Sheriff's deputy is under arrest on suspicion of child endangerment and DUI after crashing with a Bakersfield police car. It happened late Saturday night on Stockdale Highway near the In-N-Out in southwest Bakersfield. BPD says an officer was in his patrol car when off-duty KCSO deputy Anna Alvarez, who was driving her personal car, hit him. Alvarez is being accused of being under the influence and had 4 children in the car, ranging in age from 2 to 7. She was arrested and faces charges of DUI and child endangerment. KCSO says she's now on administrative leave.
This is probably one of the most embarrassing things I've seen, because if we don't have a Speaker of the House, we can't govern.
It's embarrassing.
More House Republicans, such as former Speaker and Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy, say the Speaker fight is hurting the GOP. The House has already rejected Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan. 9 potential candidates are already down to 8 after one dropped out last night. Later this morning, Republicans will hold several secret ballots until they have a new nominee.
There's a number of those guys that I could support on the floor, but we'll see how it plays out.
If we end up with a more conservative speaker, then we will have achieved the objective of upgrading the position.
Each nominee has already signed a so-called unity pledge to support whomever is chosen. The secret balloting is set to begin at 9 a.m.
And speaking of Congressman Kevin McCarthy, his local office has moved. McCarthy's current office is in the process of being relocated to a Stockdale Highway location. According to the note on the door, the new office is located at 9700 Stockdale Highway, Suite 300. That's near CSUB. In your 17 Crime Watch this morning, a man's been charged with murder in a March shooting that left 2 people dead in East Bakersfield. Javier Mejia was arrested late last month. KCSO says he shot and killed Cesar Antillon Munoz and Elidia Solis de Mejia. It happened on Lexington Avenue, south of Niles Street in East Bakersfield. Mejia is being held without bail and is expected back in court in December.
This weekend marked 13 years since a young woman was shot and killed at Cal State University Bakersfield, and the case still has not been solved. Bianca Jackson was leaving a large Halloween party on campus back in 2010. Her friends say people who did not go to the university showed up and started shouting at each other. Someone started shooting when a fight broke out and Jackson was hit. Detectives questioned several people, but no arrests were made. You are asked to call police if you know anything. You can also call the secret witness line. We turn to our coverage of the Israel-Hamas war. 2 Israeli hostages freed from Gaza, and they arrived at a hospital in Tel Aviv earlier this morning. An Israeli military helicopter landed on the rooftop of the hospital. Soldiers carrying the hostages, both women in their 70s and 80s, on stretchers into the medical facility. The women were kidnapped near the Gaza border, along with their husbands more than 2 weeks ago. Their husbands are still being held by Hamas. The women were freed after Hamas freed an American woman and her daughter on Friday.
Thousands of miles away from the war zone, local Palestinian and Jewish communities are feeling the effects of the current conflict, but in different ways. 17's Michaela Armstrong has that part of our coverage.
As the Israel-Hamas war rages on, with more than 5,000 people killed in Gaza since October 7th, when Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, local supporters took to the streets of Bakersfield Friday to show support for Palestine and let their voices be heard.
Free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
After increased discrimination since the war.
I've had people come up to me, shove me and say, "Get the F out of here, you terrorist. This is our country. I'm going to throw you out." And we stand the ground, they back down, but it's not the first time, and this has happened a number of times before. We've had things thrown at us, and the comments that we get regularly, we get regular death threats. It's unreal.
But protests to make their voice heard despite that.
We're here to show that we are here. We're not going anywhere. We're citizens of this country just as everyone else is, and we take great pride in where we're from, and we feel nothing but enormous pain seeing the genocide of our people live streamed, seeing children pulled from the rubble, and for us to back down in the face of this racism is doing everybody that's being slaughtered in Palestine right now a grave disservice.
However, according to Chabad of Bakersfield's Esther Schlanger, rallies like this, in the words used during them, have sparked fear in the Jewish community.
Using words like genocide and ethnic cleansing and occupation and all these terminologies, what they do is they dehumanize Israelis and Jews all over the world. And it gives people permission to attack and to hurt and to rip down pictures of baby hostages and to shout, "Kill the Jews" at rallies, and it gives permission for that.
Schlanger says that fear has driven local synagogues to increase security and cancel protests supporting Israel.
We canceled it. To go out there with Israeli flags we're a little bit nervous. I don't want to put anyone in harm's way.
Schlanger says the local Jewish community's current focus is safety and staying connected to the faith.
And when there's a lot of hate around you, it creates fear. And ultimately, if I have to choose between making a point on a street corner and keeping my community safe, I'll keep my community safe.
Michaela Armstrong with that report. Meantime, the Department of Homeland Security says more hate crimes are expected here in the U.S. due to the Israel-Hamas war. The DOH issuing a warning over the weekend, saying domestic hate crimes against Muslims, Arabs, and Jews are all on the rise. The agency says the war will increase the threat of terrorism and targeted violence in the United States. Targets include houses of worship, public demonstrations and events, and even U.S. military assets.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.